Almost everyone knows this logo. You can see it on sneakers, t-shirts, stadiums, and billboards all around the world. But the most surprising part of this story is its price. One of the most recognizable symbols in history once cost only $35. Yes, the logo that today represents victory, sport, confidence, and a global empire started as a simple student design project. But how did a simple mark worth $35 become a symbol of an entire era?
To understand this story, we need to go back to a time when Nike was not Nike yet. Today, it almost feels like this brand has always existed. The white swoosh on sneakers, the sportswear, the ads with legendary athletes, the slogans about victory, ambition, and pushing beyond your limits. But in the beginning, everything looked very different. Before Nike, there was a company called Blue Ribbon Sports. It was not a global giant. It was not a cultural icon. It was a small business connected to selling athletic shoes.
No magic, no empire, no world-famous symbol. Just an idea, a risk, and the desire to break into the market. The company was trying to find its place in the world of athletic footwear. But simply selling shoes was not enough. If a brand wants to grow, it needs something bigger.
One of the key people in this story was Phil Knight. He did not start with a ready-made legend. He did not wake up one day as the owner of a brand known all over the world. He built the company step by step. And at some point, it became clear. The business needed its own identity, its own name, its own character. And most importantly, a symbol people could remember at first glance.
A strong brand is not just a product. It is a feeling, an association, a symbol that a person can see for 1 second and instantly understand what it stands for. The company did not need just a pretty drawing. It needed a symbol of motion, speed, energy, sport. Something that could be placed on a sneaker, a box, a piece of clothing, or a billboard.
And this is where Carolyn Davidson entered the story. She was a graphic design student, not a famous designer, not an employee of a major advertising agency, and not someone with a huge portfolio of global brands. She was simply studying design, practicing her craft, and was given a task to create a visual mark for a new athletic company. At first, the task sounded simple, but tasks like this are often the hardest ones.
She had to create a symbol that felt fast, light, energetic, and at the same time, not overloaded with details. Carolyn started making sketches, lines, shapes, variations, attempts to express motion through one simple graphic mark. And eventually, a shape appeared that would later become part of history: the swoosh.
The mark was incredibly simple, almost minimalistic, but it had the most important thing: a sense of motion. It felt like it was flying forward, like a wing, like a trace of speed, like an instant burst of movement. That is what made it so fitting for a sports brand. But at that moment, no one knew how important it would become.
For this work, Carolyn Davidson was paid $35. That number would later become one of the most viral facts in brand history. People love to say, the Nike logo cost only $35. And there really is something unbelievable about that. Because today, this symbol is seen as one of the most valuable visual marks in the world. But at the moment it was created, it was just a job, just a design task, just a few hours of work. And this is where the main paradox appears. The price of an idea at the moment of creation and its true value years later are two completely different things. What feels like an obvious legend today could have looked like just another option among several sketches back then. That is why this story is so powerful. Because it shows that sometimes a great thing does not look great at the beginning.
Even more interesting, according to the well-known story, Phil Knight was not completely thrilled with the logo at first. This was not the kind of moment where he slammed his fist on the table and said, "This is it. This is the future legend." In reality, it was probably much quieter than that. He did not instantly fall in love with the mark. But the company had to move forward. A decision had to be made. The product had to launch. And the choice was made.
Sometimes history does not begin when everyone is absolutely sure. It begins when someone simply decides to move forward. At first, the logo was just a mark on a shoe, but little by little, it started to work. The more people saw it, the stronger the association became, and an ordinary line slowly began to turn into a symbol. The swoosh turned out to be incredibly effective. It was simple, easy to recognize, visible from a distance. It did not need a complicated explanation. It was not overloaded with details. It simply communicated movement. And for a sports brand, that was almost perfect. The best logos often do not shout for attention. They simply stay in your memory.
But there is one important thing to understand. Even the best logo means nothing on its own. It becomes legendary only when a story appears behind it. A product, advertising, victories, athletes, culture. Nike did not just create a good-looking mark. Nike turned it into a symbol of ambition, movement, and winning. Over time, people began to see this symbol more and more often. On sneakers, on sports uniforms, on advertising posters, at competitions, on people who wanted to feel faster, stronger, and more confident. The swoosh became more than just a company logo. It became a promise that you can do more, that you can take the next step, that you can defeat not only your opponent, but also yourself.
But there is an important detail in this story that people often forget. The story did not end with $35. Years later, when Nike had already become a massive brand, Carolyn Davidson received additional recognition. She was given a gold ring with the logo and company stock. And that changes the way this story feels. Because at first, it was a small design job, but later, it became a recognition of how important her work truly was.
The story of the Nike logo is not just a story about cheap design. It is a story about how the real value of an idea is rarely visible at the beginning. Sometimes, what looks like a small detail later becomes part of global culture. One line, one mark, one student design project, and an entire era built around it. Maybe the biggest lesson here is that the idea itself is not the only thing that matters. What matters is what people do with that idea afterward. Nike did not just buy a logo. It built an entire universe around it. And that is why the swoosh today is not just a drawing on a shoe. It is a symbol of motion, victory, and belief in yourself. The price of the idea was $35, but its real value became much greater. If you enjoy stories like this about brands, technology, and ideas that change the world, subscribe to the channel. More stories are coming about companies that started very differently from how we see them today.